Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Matwaychuk, and the purpose of today's intermittent reinforcement email message is to talk to you about how REBT encourages you to see that there are few laws of nature that govern human behavior. I heard an intriguing podcast interview between the psychologist Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk. And regardless of what you think about either of these two individuals, Elon Musk said something that was very interesting. And he said that physics is the law, everything else is a recommendation. And I thought about it for a minute, and I recognized that he was saying something that REBT teaches, which is that we sometimes take our goals, values, beliefs, and make them rigid. We take what we would recommend as good things to do or follow, and then treat them as if they were a law of physics. So, for example, if I said there were three laws of the universe, one was the law of gravity, the second one was the law of civil behavior towards your fellow human, and the third was the law of optimal functioning, I would be making a statement that was false to observational data. We are compelled to the law of gravity. None of us floats away in the course of our sitting at our desks. We can't violate that law. Physics holds us to the earth. The force of gravity is observationally true. However, when we anger ourselves and say that other people absolutely should be nice to us or treat us fairly or not betray us, we're acting as if there's a law of civil behavior, which is false to the facts, observationally at least. People can follow that recommendation to treat each other civilly, and it would be a good idea to do so if you ask me. But I do acknowledge that there is no law of nature that says that we must cooperate with each other, work well with each other, treat each other the way we want to be treated. It might be a man or woman or person-made recommendation that's a good one to follow and leads to social harmony, but it certainly is not a law, a natural law that governs our behavior. And this, in fact, it would be consistent with REBT to say that, look, there's the law of gravity, but there is not a law of civil behavior. It's a recommendation. And it would be good for people to follow that, and I could keep after them to try to follow that. We might even write laws, legal laws, that will incentivize each one of us to treat each other somewhat civilly. For example, not to stick knives in each other's backs, literally, or else face some sort of socially prescribed penalty for that. But even still, that's a people-made law, and maybe we see that we're capable of breaking that law at a high price, no doubt. But the universe doesn't compel us not to stick knives in each other's backs. Same thing with the law of optimal functioning. Sometimes people will disturb themselves because they'll say, you know, I really should not waste time, or I really must not waste money, or I really must, be different than I am, have some desirable quality that I have, and that would allow me to function optimally. I must not be perfectionistic. And again, these are recommendations that are good to follow. Money and time are resources. It's good not to squander them. This is consistent with REBT's teaching. So hold our preferences as such, preferences, desires, goals, recommendations, but not to create rigid ideas that somehow we confuse with the laws of physics. There is no law that's a law of physics, at least, that compels humans to act in an optimal way. Wouldn't it be a utopian society if there were not just the law of physics, but the law of civil behavior and the law of optimal functioning? Then each one of us wouldn't make mistakes, we would not squander time, we would cultivate our potential, we would function optimally and be civil in the process to each other. But sadly, that's not the world we live in. The empirical data, which REBT places a premium on, shows that humans are capable of violating these so-called quotes unquote laws, and therefore we better look at them as recommendations, guideposts, preferences, desires, and not confuse what we think would be good as a desire that gets fulfilled with something that has to happen. When we do that, we're not thinking scientifically, and therefore we're going to experience emotional disturbance. So REBT is a system of ideas aiming to teach people how to have optimal emotional and behavioral functioning, how to cultivate their talents, how to live happily using the scientific reasoning that enables us to solve problems. So scientific reasoning really is synonymous with REBT. In REBT, we teach people to adopt what we call healthy attitudes or flexible attitudes, non-dogmatic attitudes. And that's hard for humans to do. We get confused and confuse the law of gravity and other natural laws of physics with our recommendations. And we turn our recommendations into rigid and extreme attitudes, and from there, all the emotional disturbance and behavioral disturbances that we witness every day follow. So what I would encourage you to do is give some thought. Take some time today to think about this idea that Elon Musk has a good point here, that there's the law of physics, and then physics is the law, and then everything else is a recommendation. And keep your recommendations. If you believe that it's better for people to do this, then try to persuade them or incentivize them to do this. Do things that way. Try to reason with them, or in some sort of civil way, persuade them. If you believe that you are perfectionistic or waste time and money, and that you would be better off not doing so, then keep that recommendation, keep that goal, and hold the attitude that I'd like not to waste money, I'd like not to waste time, I'm going to push myself to not do these things. But by holding it a flexible attitude, even if it's a strongly held value, you will avoid downing yourself, because there seems to be a design flaw in the human mind whereby we go from saying, I have to do perfectly well, I must not waste money and time, I have to function optimally. And when I don't, the mind jumps to, I'm lesser of a person. And when we consider ourselves lesser of a person, we then tend to experience emotional disturbance in the form of depression, self-loathing, shame, hopelessness, guilt, anxiety, unhealthy envy. And so what we're teaching in REBT is for you to hold certain axioms. And one of the axioms of REBT is that people are fallible. That despite our strengths, we in fact have lots of evidence to see that humans are imperfect, and no matter which one, we vary. Some of us have extraordinary traits For example, Elon Musk seems to have the trait of high intelligence and the ability to get things done. Nevertheless, Elon, like the rest of us, will age, will fall prey to illness and likely die. So let's stop here with today's ideas and just summarize. The point I'm making here is that REBT encourages you to hold your attitudes as flexible attitudes and see that they're not absolutistic laws like the law of gravity. They're not the laws like the laws found in physics. When you hold flexible attitudes, they don't have to be flimsy. You can have a strong preference that you perform optimally, and then you'll practice doing better each day at different goals you have. You may have a strong preference that other people treat you civilly, but again, they don't have to. And you'll see that civil behavior is a recommendation, as Elon would say, not an absolutistic law. And if you see it as a recommendation that people treat each other nicely, then you won't get bent out of shape, angry when they treat you not nicely. You will be in a better position to show them unconditional other acceptance as fallible humans, much like yourself, and yet you won't sweep under the rug their bad behavior, and then you'll take action to influence their bad behavior. This leads me to the final point of today's intermittent reinforcement email message, which is that there are things we largely have under our influence, and there are things that are beyond our reach, and it's important not to confuse those two things. Certainly how our attitudes that we hold are largely within our domain of influence. Our own behavior, our reactions are largely under our domain of influence, but other people and the course of events often are beyond our reach. And when we confuse what's under our domain of influence with what's outside our reach, we then create emotional disturbance because we're trying to change things that we can't change. I hope that you reflect upon these important points, because I think REBT is a great system of ideas, and that I hope you come to know it deeply through my work and the work of other people that are in the REBT knowledge camp. And I would also remind you that every Saturday I hold a conversation with a volunteer where I bring to bear these ideas, the system of ideas, to the problem they're willing to discuss. This isn't a role play. It's done every Saturday. We've done it now for 210 consecutive weeks, something I'm quite happy to be able to reference. I think it teaches people. Watching other people learn REBT is one way you too can learn it. You can volunteer to hold a discussion with me every 6 months, as long as you're willing to discuss a real problem, as long as you're willing to bring up different problems every 6 months, and that you're not actively involved in private consultations with me or a student of mine. It's a great opportunity for people to expose themselves to REBT, either through watching other people learn it or actually talking about a specific problem. It's free to attend. It's at 9 a.m. every Saturday, regardless of where I may be physically in the world. And fate permitting, I'll be doing it for a long time to come. It's at 9 a.m. in New York City, which is, at this time of the year, it's now summertime. It's, I believe, 2 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in Bucharest, 6:30 in India, in that part of the world, 10 o'clock in Japan. We have a worldwide audience. You can get the link by writing to me and requesting it. It's at REBT Doctor, DOCTOR @gmail.com, Or you could register to get to the link. Get the link by going to my website, rebtdoctor.com. So it's either you go right to me at rebtdoctor@gmail.com, or you go to my website, rebtdoctor.com, and put your email address in. You'll get the link. I use the same link every week. It's at 9 a.m. here in New York City. I hope to see you on Saturday, but more importantly, I hope you take Elon Musk's keen observation that there are the law of physics, and then everything else is a recommendation.